cut right down the middle, up the chin all the way to the end. Kind of make an incision between these two fins here. Now, there is some blood and guts in this, so if you're a little squeamish, you might want to turn away. I'm going to cut all the way up to right up to the end of the collar there. Come back in the other direction, right behind this fin here. And the idea now is to just grab a hold of the fin wing, which we've kind of released. It's still attached to the collar up on top, but we're just trying to peel away the meat at this point. And this one is a big redfish, so let me just try to loosen it up for us a little bit. Alright, almost got it. But if you do it just right, you can kind of get all the bones to stay on the fish, as that's the goal at least. And there's one fin wing, alright? Go ahead and pop the one off the other side. Same idea. Incision right there between those two fins, all the way up to the top of the collar. Follow that same cut right behind this fin. Once it's loose, we're just going to kind of try to peel it off of the collar without taking all the bones with it is the goal. On a smaller fish, this will come off a little bit easier, but this one's going to make us work for it a little bit. Okay. Alright, so there's our other fin wing. So now we're going to turn it around. And let me rinse off my hands. I'll rinse off the fish a little bit. Maybe not quite so bloody there. Alright. So underneath the gill plate, there's your gill plate right there. I call this a little pin bone. You see a little nub that sticks up. You want to get your knife under that and cut underneath it to loosen it. That's going to release the whole side of the fish from the head. There's a little membrane behind there. You can loosen that up. But follow that same little line all the way down to the backbone. Turn your knife around. And just with the tip of your knife, we're going to follow down the collar all the way down the spine here. Alright, when I get closer to the tail, we can just cut through there. And try to stay near to the bone. Following it all down. Alright, down here by the tail, we're going to try to get to the other side around the spine. Alright, such beautiful fish we have here. Louisiana wild redfish. You see how fresh it is. That meat is just pearly white. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to stop once I get to the point where I start hitting all of the rib bones. A lot of people, when they're going to fillet a fish, they're going to try to cut up and around the rib bones. There's a lot of meat that you kind of miss out by cutting around the rib bones. So what we're going to try to do is actually take a little bit of effort here and cut. Let's see if I get a better grip. And cut right along the spine, but through those rib bones. We just did that on a smaller fish a minute ago that was not too difficult. This guy will take a little more effort to get through those bones, but let's see. Where are we at? Oh, okay. So I think we got through pretty much all of them there. Okay. So now we're going to take the rest of this fillet off. Come on. All right. And so there's the rest of the fillet. As you can see, there's nothing left on that side of the fish. That was everything. We already took the fin wing off the one side. And you still have your rib bones in here. There's only going to be about 6 or 7 of them, depending on how you cut the fish. And we're going to go ahead and just cut around those rib bones that we just went through. And this part of the fish typically is going to be left behind when you fillet in a normal fashion. This is all kind of bonus meat in a way. And rather than trying to cut through those big heavy scales, it's kind of easier just to separate it with your hands. So this is the belly of the fish. It really has all the fat, tons of flavor. And what we're going to try to do is just take this knife really gently and just kind of work it down and try to remove the skin. And now on some fish you could scale it and leave the skin on here, but on this redfish the skin can be rather tough depending on how you cook it. So we're going to try to get rid of most of it for this purpose. And pretty much there. Now I like to leave the fin intact. At this point, you just grab yourself a pair of needle nose pliers, get a hold of each one of these bones, and you just kind of secure the meat and you pull out the bones one by one. But at the end of the day, you still have a little of the swim bladder attached. You can take your knife and remove some of that if you want. I'll be honest with you though, the swim bladder really does cook up really nicely and gets tender. You really don't have to spend a lot of time trying to remove all of that. But this is what you end up with. I call it the redfish belly. You could come up with any name you want for it, really. And by leaving the collar and the fin attached, I think it adds a lot of interest to it. Once you pull out these side bones, the rib bones, there are no bones left in there. It's totally a boneless piece of meat. And you know, by leaving that fin on, really makes a great presentation. I like it fried personally, but this is probably the most flavorful part of the redfish. Has more fat than any other parts, and really the tastiest one if you ask me. And you know, you take your fin wing that we had cut earlier, and we do kind of the same thing. We're just going to try to get under that skin a little bit and just gently follow it down. Whoop, come back. Try not to cut through the skin. Just work it, and there you have your fin wing. So 2 additional cuts you can get from every redfish, red snapper, most any fish you can think of, and really it's going to increase your yield quite a bit. If you look at the traditional yield right here, you're probably talking about 30% more meat you can get from every fish. And really, this meat right here is beautiful. It's off the side. That is your traditional fillet. But this eats more like white meat off of a chicken. This fish from the underside and around the chin and underneath, it has a lot more flavor. It's closer to the bone. It really has more fat. It's far superior if you ask me, and I guarantee if you try it, you're going to realize you were missing out on the best part of the fish the whole time.